Well, let me start today off with welcoming you, kinda, to WKU, but certainly welcoming you to the WKU Math Symposium. I am extremely happy that we're getting to have this event this year. We typically have this late October or early November, and with the pandemic, we decided to postpone and see if we could perhaps have it live in the spring. And of course, we're still in the throes of the pandemic. So we're having this as a Zoom event, first time we've ever done it this way. But I'm glad we're doing it. It's this event is important, not just in the life of WKU Math, because we get to show off the work of our students and the work that we're doing with our students and with our other faculty and just ourselves. But I think it's important that we all take opportunities to celebrate this joy and love that we have of mathematics. I'm an old timer. This is my 30th year at WKU, and this is the 40th year we've had this event. It was started 40 years ago with our friend Bob Beaker as chair of the department. And I got to tell you, my view on the role of mathematics in society has changed so much over those 30 years. And, I kind of got into this game thinking math is safe. Math is the answer is the answer. And there's nothing bad about math. It's all good. You do good things with math. And I'll be honest, I'm reading a book right now that's really challenging that paradigm. I'm reading a book called Weapons of Math Destruction by Kathy O'Neill. And I recommend it highly. And it's all about these little algorithms that are running around in our lives, our day-to-day lives. Some are pretty innocuous. They just determine which ads you're seeing on Facebook or something like that. But others are not. People being recognized using facial recognition technology in public places where they're minding their own business. They didn't ask for that, and being rousted over it when they're misidentified. And even things like these algorithms that match you up with jobs and loans and things. These are all black box mathematical algorithms that a lot of times even the people who design them don't fully get. They use software that someone else developed and they're just feeding it data. So I'm coming to the realization that math is more important now than then, in a way. Then we were worried about getting to the moon and putting satellites in orbit and exploration and things. And now we're talking about our lives and decisions being made about our lives. And so this feeling, I feel strongly that math is more important now than ever. And so training, what we're doing here, this work that we do with our students, this work that we do to make our work public is even more important, because the less we understand of the math that's being used around us, the more easily we can be victimized by it. And so this is an important event. I'm glad everybody's here. I'm glad that everybody's nice and warm. Actually, I kind of like the Zoom thing. It's a little frustrating at times talking to a bunch of black boxes with names, but nobody had to get out in 20-degree weather this morning, hopefully. And it's going to be a great day. We've got great talks lined up. And so I'm going to hush now, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Oz, who will introduce our first speaker.
All right. Thanks for the awesome intro, Bruce. I'm going to just give a few logistics about this event, but again, welcome. And it's also a great pleasure to welcome you for the 40th annual Math Symposium here. I can't believe that it's the 40th. This is normally a 2-day event and face-to-face, but this year only, hopefully. It's a one-day event meeting focusing on undergraduate and graduate mathematical research and education. So we have two plenary speakers of today, and we have research on various themes involving control theory of partial differential equations, knot theory, mathematical biology, computational mathematics, number theory, computer science, probability, statistics, and math ed. So we have awesome talks lined up. And we're very grateful for the tremendous support of our sponsors. That's Math Department, Ogden College of Science and Engineering, and Gatton Academy of Math and Science. And also, I would like to thank the symposium organizing committee who helped to put together an engaging program, in fact. And Dr. Ernst, Dr. Lanphier, Dr. Munasinghe, Dr. Nguyen, Dr. Shugart, and John Straker. Thanks a lot. And also a big thanks go to our session chairs and co-chairs. Thanks a lot for volunteering. And before coming to a close of these remarks, I would also like to remind you, especially our moderators, chairs, and co-chairs, to strictly stick to our time schedule and not to let any session overrun. And I sincerely hope you will enjoy today for debate and networking, especially for networking. Please stay in touch with our plenary speakers before, after, during the talks. Thank you for your cooperation and participation. And at this stage, I would like to introduce our plenary speaker, James Harrington. He's a computer scientist, Computer Information Science and Technology Office, and he's also holding a position at Goddard Space Flight Center, and he's responsible for STEM engagement. And he got his degree, a bachelor's degree in computer science from the University of Maryland. And his major responsibilities at NASA are data science, machine learning, research outreach, and systemic STEM reform for professional learning and student achievement in STEM. So today's talk is going to be about leveraging human adaptability to reskill and upskill our force. And Dr. Harrington, James, please, you can share your screen anytime and you can start anytime. Thanks again for coming here and then to give a talk for us.
So Dr. Ozer, let me know when it's up.
You can start in a few minutes. You can put it in the full screen if you want to, or presentation mode if you want to.
I'm a little concerned about that, so I'm going to stay safe. Can you guys see it now?
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Awesome. All right. So let's get started. So, I'm gonna start by more or less immersing everybody in NASA. I think that's always a cool thing to do, right? Everybody likes to see what's going on in the centers, particularly in regions like Kentucky, who don't always have broad-based collaborations and familiarity with what's going on at some of the centers. We tend to do fairly well around immediate states, and then as we start to get more towards the Midwest, and you're in Western Kentucky, it's even further away from us. We tend to have less influence and less vision for your people. So we're going to start with that, and then I'm going to home into the real meat of the talk, and that it's about what it really means for a state like Kentucky, an EPSCoR state, that can tend to be left out. All states that are EPSCoR jurisdictions have been qualified as states that are underfunded in federal investments. So there's a reason why I work very closely with Dr. Ozer, because I have a vision for the state of Kentucky, and I was telling him before we started, my main goal for working is to assist this whole leveraging of upskilling and reskilling in Kentucky, both for people that live in Kentucky, who are looking to make sure that they can be competitive in the workforce, and then make sure that the people that they're close to or their children have the opportunities to be competitive in the workforce. And then those who invest in institutions in the state of Kentucky, like Western Kentucky, if they're not from Kentucky, then you guys are the caretakers of their investments in tuition. And they're looking to you guys to provide these types of opportunities. So it's my responsibility to work with all of you faculty to make sure that you can ensure that the state of Kentucky leverages its EPSCoR, congressional EPSCoR appropriations well. You have great leadership there in EPSCoR and Space Grant. I work closely with those guys. So I want to make sure that you guys know, particularly as it relates to this presentation, the types of partnerships we can have for the goals that I stated. So I'm going to immerse you real quick in Goddard Space Flight Center. These are all of our
science and technology
research themes
of NASA Goddard. Our people are the brains, the instruments and spacecraft we construct, the bones, the data we analyze, our pulse. So you could say, excellence is in our DNA.
Okay, so that's a real quick view of what we're doing here. Discovering the secrets of the universe and searching for life, and safeguarding and improving life on Earth, and overall translate the knowledge and technology derived from these areas of exploration to practical applications of today. And those are important for the state of Kentucky, right? Translating this knowledge so that we can impact the state of Kentucky, the quality of life there, and the quality of education, the quality of economics. And so Goddard really is designed as a multi-institutional center. All right, so Greenbelt is our main campus. And what you can probably see in the background is the nation's largest clean room. That's where we build our spacecraft. I'll show you the portfolio of spacecraft that have been built at Goddard. And we just shipped, not too long ago, we shipped off the James Webb Space Telescope, which was also built at Goddard. Then we got the Wallops Flight Facility. And for quite some time, Wallops was generally a facility for sounding rockets and high altitude balloons. Now, SpaceX is actually all of the payload for the space station suite of rockets are now launching from Wallops. So Wallops now is a major national launching facility. The Goddard Institute of Space Studies is really where our climate change, our top world-renowned climate change scientists are, and that's in Upper Manhattan, New York. The IVMV verification facility was really born out of the accident with the Apollo missions, right? We had some issues with some of the codes that were the computers that we were using in the computers to help do some autonomous navigation and decision making. And after we lost lives in the Apollo mission, we decided we needed an additional facility that their sole job is to verify valuable lines of code, that not only is involved in manned space flight, but anything that launches and flies and does autonomous navigation, that code needs to be scrubbed through IVV. Then we have White Sands, which is what we do with a lot of our deep space communications. I'll talk a little bit about that. And then I don't know much about this Columbia Scientific Balloon Facility. I'm fairly new to even understanding that was a part of our portfolio down in Texas. So I'll have to get myself up and going on that one. Okay, so who we are, we're basically around 10,000 or so. We've been as high as 13,000 before the Great Recession, and we started to slim down, and we're somewhere closer to around 10,000, and we're only half of those. Well, about a third of those are civil service government employees. The other 2/3 are contractors. Right, so the contractor workforce is clearly important for us, and not all contractors are at Goddard Space Flight Center, right? We tend to have contractors in other states doing critical research for us. So that's an important thing to know, that there's an economic potential in the state of Kentucky to contribute to the Goddard Space Flight Center's work. But you do see that 61% of our workforce are scientific and engineers. Here's our lines of businesses, right? So this is another thing that I talked, Dr. Ozer says, hey, James, I'm really looking to expand my horizons in NASA upskill, and he got some really cool stuff from Jacob Owen. And I said, okay, this is where we start, right? But these lines of businesses come from our National Academies studies, right? And the NASA Advisory Council. The National Academies basically tells us within these things that have been defined as highest payoff science for NASA, understanding astrophysics, right? How our universe is composed and interacts, and what the evolution is. Heliophysics, what's happening with us as in relationship to our star, the sun. Why should we know more about it, and how to predict things as the sun is such a dynamic physics engine, nuclear engine. And then we've got the Earth. How is it evolving? We all know. We see what's happening with these storms, man, and all this ice. What's happening, man? Can we understand this? And can we better prepare, right? I mean, I think in many places we got caught with our pants down, right? For places that that weren't this cold in the past, that now are freezing. So are things changing? We don't know yet, right? These things just happen. We don't know yet. But we need to be able to look in the past and see if there's something that should have told us about it, and then say, okay, well, what can we do to better prepare our citizenry for the future? That's Earth science. And then in planetary and lunar science, can we kind of figure out what's happening around us? What was the evolution of other things within our universe, right? Within our solar system. And then can we sort of predict, using comparative planetology, what's maybe in store for Earth, right? And then potentially, are there other places maybe we can go and get things from, valuable things that can benefit human life. And then so we have those 4 things down at the bottom that are cross-cutting platforms from which Goddard plays a major role, all right? And so when you look at those lines of businesses, this is sort of what it looks like, right? And this is what this talk really is about. Because it takes people. This stuff, we can build this stuff. There's plenty of money in our federal budgets to do some pretty incredible stuff, but it takes people, right? Without the people, this stuff doesn't work. So what you see here is a massive, massive accumulation of launching, development, engineering, and launching of remote sensing for science. And then there's all kinds of communication going on between there. And you saw that White Sands facility. We've got those types of things all over the place. We've got deep space network satellites that are sending that these things talk to, and they send their data. So this is a lot about big data. But again, I want to reinforce that it's about people. But this is a lot about big data and how people can leverage big data to advance our society, right? And how humans have to live and learn to adapt to technological advances if we're going to advance as a civilization. But what's additionally can be lost in this picture is in the background, you see some major science themes. That's a part of Goddard's portfolio, right? So in the background, you see the sun. That's science. So, and then on the upper right-hand corner, there's the Earth. There's science about studying the Earth. And in the right-hand corner, those are the astrophysics things. There's science about understanding how stars form and what else is out there, things that we can't see in the visible spectrum of the human eye. And then there's this opportunities to learn more about the rocky planets that are in our neighborhood and what they may provide for us, like Mars. And then over and to the left, it's not just Mars that's in our solar system. There's a reason why we want to try to understand of maybe the potential for other forms of life in our solar system. So we look at orbiting these planets and understanding their moons, and then looking at opportunities to maybe even land on places where there's water and do some research. So let's not get too lost in the spacecraft that's flying. But see, what we're talking about here is the engineering of science, and that's what Goddard does. We're probably one of the top world-renowned engineering laboratories in the world, and that's what we do. We engineer science. But the engineering of science means we do a lot of remote sensing, right? Places that we can't go and look at and touch on our own, right? So we have to use a lot of engineering, and then a lot of that engineering has to be built with instrumentation, right? So we have to have instruments, and instruments that not only can allow us to see things in the visible spectrum, but in things in a way that the human eye cannot see, right? So all this stuff is really important. It leads to all future types of talks that we can have. And again, like Dr. Kessler said, a lot of this stuff is mathematics, right? So a lot of stuff that I'm talking about is mathematics, and what we're doing in AI and ML for the advancement of science is heavily derived in mathematics. Luckily, the major advancements have been made because high performance computing has been developed by engineering by leaps and bounds, and we have these natural language programming that takes a lot of really complicated mathematics stuff and puts it in a library or in an algorithm, which is really cool, which really allows us to advance what we're doing, right? Many of you probably saw the Hidden Figures movie, right? So you saw Katherine Johnson up there on that whiteboard putting in all that math, right? And they would not, Alan Shepard would not take off without understanding where they could safely abort the mission. And she had to sit there, even though they were bringing in that IBM computer. He said, hold on. He says, I believe in Katherine Johnson. So if Katherine Johnson can confirm what the computer says, then I'm ready to launch. If she can't, so that's mathematics. Everything that we do in orbital mechanics, it's built in now into the computers. Everybody saw Perseverance land, that those 7 minutes of autonomous navigation and landing were critical, right? But that's all mathematics. Okay, so let's talk real quick about where all this came from, right? So you saw that picture of our lines of businesses. So basically, back in 2015, NASA started to see that we not only were we accumulating a lot of big data and not leveraging that data for the advancement of science, we still had stuff from Voyager that was launched back in the 80s that we hadn't looked at, right? People are still learning about Neptune and Uranus. The Voyager spacecrafts were the only spacecraft that visited those planets. So the data for those planets still only exists from Voyager's data sets. So people are still learning about some of the big gaseous planets from Voyager. And there's just not enough people, right? So what do we need to do? We need to start looking at technology. Again, I've got this common theme of how humans and technology have to evolve together for the advancement of science and advancement of our civilization. So the National Academy has kind of told the NASA Advisory Council, you guys need to do something about this big data. And the NASA Advisory Council created a big data task force, right? And that task force vision was to enable transformational open science through continuous evolution of science, data, and computing systems, right? And that's kind of what I do in the division that I work for, and I'll talk a little bit about that at Goddard Space Flight Center, okay? And so I'm a part of this mission, lead an innovative and sustainable program supporting NASA's unique science missions with academic, that's your part, academic, international commercial partners to enable groundbreaking discoveries with open science data. Again, the only way we can really do this is not to continue to work with the people that we've been reaching out to in the past. You heard Dr. Kessler talk about some of the not so great things that can happen with these algorithms, because a lot of the algorithms tend to be used and developed by the same people over and over. We've got to have the diversity of people developing the algorithms so that they can bring in a perspective that says, hey, hold on, I see the problem of why you're misidentifying people, right? Because you're always looking to pick for people that look like you. right? You're not looking for people that look like me, right? And so something else comes up, and you know, we don't all look alike, and then so you're now assuming that's me, right? So it's important that we have a diversity of people who are developing these algorithms, and that's a big part of what I do, and that's a big part of what this talk is all about. All right, and then promote opportunities for continuous learning as the field evolves through collaboration. Again, that's the role. That's the role I have with Dr. Ozer. All right, and here's some of their findings. There were about 20 or so, but I picked these out because these are directly relevant to the talk today. Work with NASA centers to increase their recruitment of data science professionals. Again, I want to stress that we want to find some of those professionals from the state of Kentucky. We don't, you know, I kind of personally don't know many. Explore AI and ML and other novel computational techniques through various avenues. upskill is one of those avenues that I'm using. Space Grant is another. And then make investments to incentivize and educate the community on how to use AI and ML. I'm going to talk to you about an effort that I've been developing for about a couple of years now with Jacob and the Kentucky upskill Space Grant jurisdiction leaders about a Southeastern working group for AI and ML, for which Jacob has committed his commitment to supporting people like you that are online to participate in education, collaboration, and research. And I'll talk about an appendix that it just closed for upskill, where I'm kicking this off. Okay, so what does this mean? It means that we've now established this whole NASA digital transformation, right? And it's a transformation initiative. It's one that my office, CISTO, Office of the Computational and Information Systems Technology Office at Goddard Space Flight Center. We are the service office for the 4 mission themes that I showed you: astrophysics, planetary science. Those scientists come to us for high performance computing platforms, access to cloud services, and access to algorithms and models for dealing with big data in their science teams. And so here's the human piece. All right, let's get back to the title. Right? How do we look at leveraging and upskilling? Right? So what I want to do is make sure that we leverage these upskill jurisdictions like Kentucky. They've been traditionally left out. That's why they're upskill states, right? How do we leverage the unique viewpoints that they bring, and how can we broaden participation? Because quite frankly, we're tapping out some of our most traditional partners. They've established relationships. They've established a line of research, and they don't have capacity to veer far from that, right? And so in order for us to increase our ability to produce, we have to have new partners. But in many cases, those new partners we have to leverage those new partners by reskilling them and upskilling them, right? So we have, in many places in the country, we have highly qualified, disciplined scientists. And I was telling Dr. Ozer this morning, we have great people who are very knowledgeable in the physical sciences and the life sciences and in engineering in general, right? But they really have to understand how to collaborate, how to build innovative teams of life sciences and physical scientists and engineering engineers and mathematicians, right? For the advancement of science. So as a group, we have to do that, because that's what we do at NASA, right? Our people don't work in silos, right? The people in our science divisions understand that if we're going to do things from the perspective of space, most of them aren't engineers, right? Most of them don't know how to build instruments, but they know about the science, right? And so they know that they need certain instruments to bring certain types of data, so they can sort of see what the science is and tell a story, right? And that's what I need you folks at Kentucky to understand. So the contrary to popular belief, this whole transformation thing is more about people. Again, it's because for us to transform as an agency, we have to understand how our people now have to work. This isn't about the technology. As it says there, we can buy technology. You saw that picture. We've got spacecraft flying all over the place. We just dropped a rover on Mars. We can buy the technology, right? but it's about the people. And if we're going to advance, we have to look at closing the gap between talent supply and demand, because the type of things that I'm talking about doing are the types of things that Google is doing, the type of things that Amazon is doing, the type of things that General Motors and Ford and Tesla are doing. Everybody's pulling on this stuff, right? And there is a gap between supply and demand. So we need to be able to future-proof. If we're talking about the Artemis program going from the moon to Mars, this is something that's not going away. Can we future-proof this by creating enough talent to keep this research and keep these programs alive and thriving throughout generations? And then that final quote is one of the most powerful. While the future is more ambivalent and uncertain than ever, we are confident that a pretty strong bet on the future is to focus on reskilling and upskilling people so they are better equipped to adjust to change. Change is gonna happen, right? And it's some states that change is more impactful than in other states. You get hit hard. So we have to put people first. Technology is about doing more with less. You know, we have, I was riding to the bank with my mom, and she'll sit in a long bank line, right? Instead of going to an ATM. Why? Because she's afraid of it. She doesn't know how to use the ATM. I see lines in the grocery store where people will line and stay in long lines to get to to a cashier, and then there's 5 or 6 self-checkouts that they're available. Why don't they go over there? They don't know how to use the self-checkout, right? So we don't have as many cashiers. And this is why innovation is commonly described as creative destruction. But when you look to the sides and you see those self-checkouts, you can't imagine how many new jobs were created by those companies that developed those self-checkouts. So that's why it's called creative destruction, right? So it's quite simple. The most brilliant innovation is irrelevant if we're not skilled enough to use it, right? If people won't use that self-checkout, it becomes a log jam, right? But things aren't going to be reversed, right? I'm sorry, things aren't going to go back to the old ways. So the main implication is that when leaders think about investing in technology, they should first think about investing in people who can make that useful. That's my job. So in my job, I work within the Science Mission Directorate, and here's our initiative for artificial intelligence and machine learning. I strategically leverage upskill and space grant, and to look at strategies to make those connections with people like Dr. Ozer that traditionally have not been working within the agency, and in cultivating and empowering a diverse and inclusive workforce and work environment, enabling NASA to attract the highest levels of knowledge, capabilities, creativity, problem solving, decision making, and performance, enabling us to achieve the greatest mission success. And as I talked about, I'm almost done. As I talked about, we have a research collaboration model. That collaboration model requires us to develop the people concept, right? Teams of computer scientists and physical and life scientists who work together to solve problems that are important to NASA and humanity's future. This is really the role that the states and the institutions play are defined in our institutional research and development, the IRAD. Our development model for how we develop new technologies at Goddard requires us to partner with other government agencies, industry, and academia. Otherwise, these proposals to do these types of things are considered to be deficient. So let's look at space grant. I'm sorry, this is upskill. So let's take a look at upskill, all right? So the goal of upskill is to provide seed funding that will enable jurisdictions to develop an academic research enterprise toward long-term. I was talking to Dr. Ozer about that this morning, not episodic. My goal isn't to do anything episodic with Western Kentucky. You know, if I do it episodic, we'll find 1 or 2 or 3 bright students who can come in, and then we might go 2 or 3 years without engaging the university. University really isn't any closer to working with NASA. We've just been able to spin off some really cool students to come and do stuff who may or may not take the programs back to NASA. And if we invest just in a faculty member, then if the faculty member becomes a superstar and wants to go off and start his own startup, or gets a better offer from a more prestigious university, then the program goes with the faculty member. That's not what I'm here for with Western Kentucky. I'm here to help Western Kentucky develop a long-term vision and something that it sees as strategic for competitiveness for the university. It's strategic for the competitiveness of the state of Kentucky, and it contributes to the American Competes Act. So EPSCoR objectives are to continue and promote development of research infrastructure. That's what I'm here for you guys. Improve the capabilities of jurisdictions to gain support from sources outside of EPSCoR. Again, I talked to that about Dr. Ozar when you got something from Jacob. I said, buddy, let's look at the vision of what's outside of EPSCoR. Let's target that and use the seed funding from EPSCoR to obtain that vision, right? Let's not just look at something that's happening within EPSCoR as a seed that would be really cool to do without a vision for where we're going to go. And then develop partnerships between NASA, research assets, industry, and EPSCoR jurisdictions. Again, this is about developing economic capacity for the state of Kentucky, as well as individuals in the university. And I was telling Dr. Ozer, my investment in you guys is my investment in the students, not just the university students, but potentially what can happen in K-12 that makes these students more prepared and capable to be successful in the workforce that's being impacted. So as I stated, I just closed an EPSCoR R3 rapid research response announcement that's basically targeted A&I and ML. So while the scientific discovery using these disciplines are a primary target, a major desired outcome is to support the diversity inclusion. All right, and that vision was communicated by our former administrator, Jim Bridenstine, who basically said we embrace the critical importance of cultivating and empowering a diverse and inclusive workforce and work environment, enabling NASA to attract the widest and deepest pools of talent, leveraging the capabilities of our exceptional workforce and empower all personnel to be authentic. Right, I get the power to be authentic, to participate, and to fully contribute. So we need people from Kentucky. I need partnerships with people like Dr. Ozar to fulfill this vision. And that does it.
Woohoo. Well, that was a great talk. Thank you, James.
I got to come back to my screen. Here we go.
You stop sharing. All right. Do we have any question for the speaker? You can raise your hand, or you can simply put it in the chat box. You could be muted. I can unmute yourself. Please put your question in the chat box, or simply unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Great talk, Dr. Harrington. Tony Simpel.
I'm not a doctor. I've only got a bachelor's.
Okay.
I said doctor, by the way, in my introduction as well. Sorry.
That's fine. Okay.
Code 66.
What I was saying, so basically, work that may be concerning orbital mechanics, analytical work in orbital mechanics might be offered through your sector. Is that accurate?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. I'll definitely be in touch with you after this conference.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, sir.
Any other question, comments?
Did Goddard play any part in that little helicopter they're putting on Mars?
No, but the parachute was built out at Wallops.
Oh,
Yeah. Yep. So that parachute was made out there at Wallops. But no, most of that stuff is led by JPL.
Okay.
Yeah. So they've got a full Mars markup out there at JPL, and the rover and all that stuff. Most of that stuff is developed by JPL. Goddard does a lot of the communications. So we manage a lot of the deep space network, and then you saw those facilities out at White Sands. So we manage a lot of the communications of the exploration missions.
Well, even that parachute's pretty impressive because the atmosphere is so thin, the fact that it worked.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody about Wallops yesterday, and I was stressing about the engineering of science, and that we really got to make sure that when we talk to the universities, right, when we talk to our engineering division, they want to work with us. When we talk to universities and their engineering department, if they want to send kids to Goddard, you really need to understand not just the major things involved in the engineering design process, but what does it mean to engineer science, right? And so a lot of times that can only happen when life scientists and physical scientists work hand in hand with engineering departments to talk about earth science, space science, and how that science gets engineered. Then you get the real life application of engineering. You don't just learn how to, develop a robot or make a robot talk. Basically, what is the robot going to be used for, right? There's something scientific going on, right? And so, when we recruit engineers, we tend to recruit them a lot of times from the same places because those students understand the engineering of science. We do have some great success stories from our ability to just speak for broadening participation and bringing in engineers, but it kind of slows things down because sometimes remediation has to happen, right? And so it's not optimal, right? So I want to take that away, right? I want to basically say, don't think about coming to some of the schools that I'm working with because you're afraid you're going to have to do too much remediation. I'm going to build programs where these people are going to come mission success ready because we have the investments by Congress to do it. EPSCoR and Space Grant are congressional mandates by the agencies to build that type of capacity in states. So if we don't use those, then we're wasting those funds.
There's a question on chat, Oz.
You can simply ask your question. Yeah.
No, not my question. Claire Ryan has asked.
What is that code? 606 zip code. What is that about?
Is that for me?
Claire, can you clarify your question? Maybe just unmute yourself and ask your question if that's to the speaker. In the meantime, I do have a question, in fact, on behalf of SciAm student chapter. So we have a lot of applied mathematicians in our department. I'm wondering about what you recommend to our students, especially freshman students, even in fact high school students, to get prepped for maybe becoming an employee in NASA in the future. So what are hot and what do you think they should focus on to be able to be employed by NASA in the future?
Take your mathematics aspirations and use them for data science. Data science, man. Every division, we're looking to hire data scientists. So if you're a physicist, we want you to know data science, right? If you're a biologist, we want you to understand data science, right? Because we need you to be able to work hand in hand with our platforms where we produce opportunities to increase the understanding of that science. So a lot of times that's happening by our physical and life scientists. We are now reskilling and upskilling workforce at NASA. Yeah, so
we had some speakers, data science. We had some data scientists we hosted as SciAm student chapters, and there's sort of like a debate going on, like which programming language they should use. Is it like Python or something else in NASA that you want like specific skills of computer?
That's splitting hairs. That's splitting hairs, right? So understand the fundamentals of data science and how it really is an evolution from data analysis, right? Yeah. So you really got to go from the old days of how we used to take formulas in spreadsheets, right? And now we're using natural language processing where those formulas are built in. The power of built-in formulas and high performance processing units and cloud computing, where we can put more and more into memory now and execute things much faster. Yeah, that's what people need to learn how to do. Mathematicians really need to understand the power of data science. Their horizon is unlimited because, like I was telling you, it's not just NASA. Everybody, the local grocery store chain now need to understand data science and how to service their customers better and how like Bruce talked about, how to put the ads in front of them, right? Because they know what they've been looking at inside the store, what they've been buying from their receipts, right? How do I send them an email and say, hey, look, you might be interested in this? That's the power of the workforce for the future. Yeah. And that's what you guys got to get those people in Kentucky to understand. You got to get them ready to work in the workforce of the future. Those are the jobs.
Thank you. I think Somangi has a question. Go ahead, Somangi.
Yeah, do you have summer programs or internships for students? Or
Oh yeah, yeah. So Dr. Oza hit me with that, and I told him I apologized about not having that in my talk today. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And so we post jobs, we post opportunities in intern.nasa.gov. That's the site, right? And so again, we provide a lot of opportunities for just mining students who can look at look at those position opportunities and say, that's something I'm interested in, right? And I'll apply. Okay. And so fortunately right now we're a little more sensitive to trying to build and broadening participation, right? Because in many cases, students that come from universities that understand the engineering of science better tend to be more attractive to our mentors, right? Because they know they don't have to spend a lot of time when they come there, you know. It's only 8 weeks, right? So every week that I use to try to tell you about what we're doing, unless I can have a vision for bringing you back, is a week lost on advancing the job description, right? So, but it's been done in the past fairly well. They just prefer to have students that they're familiar with or from institutions that are familiar with their programs. So my job is to break that wall down, right? So I need to work with you guys so your kids are seen to be as attractive as kids from other institutions, right? Because I've developed a relevancy for your curriculum and for your projects and for your work to be relevant to what our people in the centers are doing, so that they know that those kids and their resumes will reflect their work with you and their work with your institutions to make them more competitive. Yeah, but intern.nasa.gov is the place to go. Well, I don't discourage anybody not to apply simply because their institution doesn't have a relationship, but I do encourage faculty members who want their students to do things at NASA to invest in themselves. Please invest in your ability to make that student more competitive to come to us.
Did you say at some point that you don't really expect any kind of like visits to Goddard?
Yeah. So that used to be it was a mainstay always within Space Grant and EPSCoR to provide those visitation opportunities for faculty, right? It's become even more pronounced now. I think NSF, NASA's NSF EPSCoR and NASA's EPSCoR and NSF EPSCoR are now partnering to provide a new opportunity, right, for student and faculty to come to a center and do things related to some long-term vision for developing a program at an institution. Those things have to be put on hold because we're still on COVID lockdown.
So
do you have another question to the speaker? Somangi, all right, go ahead.
I have a follow-up question. So you said students who are familiar with your program has an advantage, so you don't have to spend time teaching them what you're doing. So is there a way students can find out before, say the summer before they apply, what you're doing and familiarize themselves? As a senior project, do something to that effect so that when they do apply, they are somewhat familiar.
Absolutely. That's my ultimate goal, right? My ultimate goal is not wait until something has happened and then try find opportunities for broadening participation. I try to look out into the future and see what's coming down the pipe, right? And then develop programs to prepare students, you know, who may not be as competitive right now, right? To say, okay, in 2 years, maybe you're a freshman. In 2 years as a sophomore, you know, what should you have under your belt to come to work at the center? Maybe the freshman and sophomore years, I'm working with you to develop student projects, right? And then when they become juniors, because of their work with you and me developing their skill sets, they're ready to compete as a junior.
Somebody has a question, but I can't really. Apirana, can you unmute yourself? I think I allowed you to unmute.
Yeah, hello. So I just had a quick question. So in addition to, like you said, data analysis, would you say it would be beneficial to learn like any programming languages like C++ in addition to that?
A good question. So again, I'll stick to my response. It's like splitting hairs. So you probably should invest a little homework in understanding what are the more advanced programming languages today. We tend to use Python a lot at Goddard Space Flight Center, right? Because all the math libraries are built in. It just and with high performance computing platforms, we can do so much more with fewer lines of code, right? So, but you know, there's plenty of stuff available on places like YouTube, where data scientists and researchers, you can basically talk about you could put in a query in YouTube and get discussions about the programming languages that are probably best for the workforce today and the workforce of the future. And that stuff is readily available. But at Goddard, we do a lot of upskilling and reskilling with Python.
Okay. Hello.
Hey.
Well, a very nice talk. I'm a faculty member here at WKU. I'm a data scientist here.
Yeah.
I see like NASA have a lot of data available for, you know, different kinds of research opportunity. For instance, I recently got interested in one of your project in this lunar data analysis.
Yeah.
So like for programs like this, this is a funding opportunity. I believe that, you know, there are a lot of data that you guys collected at NASA, right? So, but the thing is, like for data scientists, we and also my students, you know, I believe like we have the data analysis skills, right? We, you know, but the question is, for data scientists, we like the knowledge of like what are interested in your, you know, for instance, we want to do a proposal or something like that, right? So what you guys are interested, we kind of like that kind of knowledge. So that's kind of the thing that you know, I know that we need to find different interesting problems, but it will be
Case studies. Yeah.
But could you say, for instance, this lunar science, right? So could you give us some like examples of some interesting problems about the lunar data, so that we
Absolutely.
Yes.
So one thing I'm working primarily is a partnership that I have with our Space Technology Mission Directorate, our Human Exploration and Development of Space, and our Science Mission Directorate, that have all come together with an interdisciplinary research platform for Artemis, right? So there's science in Artemis, there's technology in Artemis. We got to get there. We have to do exploration. A lot of times, if we're only going to have 2 people there to have a robust science platform or portfolio, a lot of it has to be done with instruments and rovers and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the Artemis mission really is an awesome opportunity for us to do some preparation, right? Because we're not going to really be sending humans to the moon until 2024, right? But we want to learn more and more about what's on the moon, right? What can we use? Where are the best place to develop human habitats. That's happening now. And I've got a program that scales from undergraduate to K-12, right? For taking a portion of Artemis, which involves the Lunar Surface Innovation Initiative. And that is what can we do as a consortium of academia to understand resources and science of the lunar surface, which a lot of it involves autonomous rovers, right? Looking at lava tubes, old lava tubes in the moon that can serve as shelter from radiation from the sun and potential places to develop human habitats. So there's a challenge that's been defined, right? That's an excellent undergraduate challenge, all right? And involves a lot of machine learning, helping and reinforcement learning, helping rovers to make decisions about where to go and what to do and what to gather. So there are a lot of projects like this that we have available. But that's why I'm here. That's why I was working with Dr. Ozer. I wanted him to try to find a home for where he thought his research interests were and what's the return on investment for Western Kentucky and the state of Kentucky. And I challenge you to do the same. I'm willing to work with you to help you. And I need you to do like Dr. Ozer. Get in touch with Jacob Owen, right? Make sure Jacob knows. I'm a candidate for some EPSCoR stuff. I want to get started. I listen to James Harrington. I'm a data scientist. He's working in AI and ML. Make sure that I'm aware of what's happening in the Southeast region. So I'll be calling on Jacob and saying, Jacob, how many faculty members do you have in Kentucky who want to contribute to this consortium? We'll be having symposia where we'll be bringing NASA people. This is where you're going to learn. All right. So we're going to be giving talks in all of our NASA themes, in our engineering, or places where we're looking to do make advancements in science and engineering. And I think as a data scientist, you most certainly can find a home somewhere in that portfolio.
Okay, thank you. Very good.
Okay.
Thanks.
We can have another quick question from our speakers. Any question, comments? Well, James talked about everything, so just in fact, you answered most of my questions during your talk. So
well, again, I encourage you all, support your students, right? Make sure, get on that intern site. And there's something I always tell everybody is don't always look at the opportunities as something that you can do or can't do or doesn't fit. Look at the opportunities as a definition, right? Look at them as a definition of work. And then how your curriculum and how your university functions in your department to produce potential workforce, because that's actual work that's being done. So don't just look and say, oh, that's just something for a student. No, that's a definition of NASA work in one of our laboratories, and take a look at how you can increase the capacity of WKU. You don't go and look at, oh, we can't do all of this stuff. What is James talking about? No, look at the stuff that applies to you and your personal interests professionally and say, how can I align myself with that type of work? And how can I prepare my students to come to apply for that internship? Yeah. So I think all of you should take a look at those intern descriptions and see what's going on. What kind of work is going on? Not just at Goddard, but at all the centers, and find yourself somewhere in one of those work descriptions and see how you can make your students more prepared to go. And then make yourself prepared. Like Dr. Ozer said, at some part, we're going to open back up. You might want to do a visit. You see a work description in there, Dr. Ozer, that might be a place where you can go and tell Jacob, that's where I want to go because I see a mentor saying that's the kind of work that they do. That's where I want to go and visit.
Right. Well, great comments. Yeah. This is not just for our students, but for our faculty.
That's right. For your faculty.
It's a great talk. Yeah. Any other comments, questions to add? Otherwise, I'm going to close this session and I'm going to advertise a few talks and logistics. And I think we're good. No questions, comments. All right. I think thanks again. Yeah. Thanks for coming,
guys. Inviting me. I enjoyed it.
We'll see you soon.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Thank you.